Hello everyone, Simon here. Welcome back to the architecture of Hitman World of Assassination. We are in Mumbai, India. Welcome to Mumbai. I've taken over an apartment here. Let me get down to the ground and have a quick look around before we start. Oh, look at this, that's kind of nice. We'll come back to this. Run down to the street. Alright, so here, somewhere in Mumbai, I believe this is a fictional location, it's not a real part of Mumbai. We do have a new tower being built over there, very fancy. And then right next to it we have a slum, not as fancy, but unfortunately also distinctive of Mumbai. And then over here we have some medium density apartments, sort of. Okay, we're gonna look into all of that. But before I really dig into the architecture, I want to talk about the idea of an infrastructure deficit, right? And also a housing deficit, and they're kind of related. Um, so when you have a certain amount of people, they need a certain amount of housing, right, to live in. And those houses need a certain amount of electricity and water and plumbing and sewage, and you need roads to connect the houses. And so that's infrastructure, right? For so many people, you need so much infrastructure. And an infrastructure deficit is when you have more people than you have the infrastructure to support. And that happens if your population grows faster then you can build new infrastructure. And you end up in an infrastructure deficit is when people don't have enough houses to live in, they don't have enough water or electricity or sewage or even roads. And then they end up having to build slums which are not properly supplied with these things, and that's what makes it a slum, right? So there's two things. There's the population growing and then the inability to build enough infrastructure to keep up. So what causes populations to grow? In recent history, when a country becomes better developed, they improve their healthcare. And when the healthcare improves, people live longer, and also fewer children die. And you might say, oh, that's a good thing. Oh, people live longer, that's a good thing. Oh, children don't die as often, oh, that's a good thing. But the result of those is that the population grows, and when the population grows, and your infrastructure can't keep up, then the quality of life declines because they can't find proper houses to live in with proper services. So somehow, you have a situation where the economy is improving, but the result of the economy improving is that people's quality of life declines. And this is like the trap, right? The trap, I think this is part of the so-called middle income trap, is that like you're getting a bit wealthier, but your quality of life declines, and then you are unable to climb any higher because you can't afford, like your country can't afford education, you can't afford clean house, clean water, and all that kind of stuff, and so that limits your ability to become even wealthier, right? So this is it seems paradoxical, but it actually happens to everyone, including in the past, when Europe went through the Industrial Revolution, there was just a serious infrastructure deficit. So not only do people live longer and less children die, but a lot of people will move from rural areas into the cities because all of a sudden there's opportunities, new jobs, factories spring up, factories need jobs. But while the people go to fill these jobs, not enough new housing is built to house all these people coming in from the rural areas into the cities. And that really makes a huge problem in the city, right? So how do you like fix this, or how do you avoid this? Well, you have to build enough infrastructure to keep up with the population growth. The problem is that infrastructure, like what do you need? You need money, you need labor, you need materials, you need construction equipment, and you need time, because even if you have all the other stuff, it still takes time to build the thing. So everything takes time, and everything takes money and labor, and everything takes resources. So to build anything, you need to get all this other stuff together, and a country really only has so much ability to build things, right? 'Cause you only have so many construction workers, you only have so many machinery, and it takes time. Like, you can increase your construction capacity, but that takes time too. So everything takes time. And then the thing you don't have is time, because as time passes, the population continues to grow. And so the more time you take to build up your capacity, to build infrastructure, the more your population grows and the further behind you are in your infrastructure deficit. So this is a serious problem. It is like definitely a problem in India. India has a infrastructure deficit problem. But I do want to point out that it's not a strictly Indian problem, because this happens all over the world. This has happened. Even today's richest countries in the world, like Western Europe, United States, in the past they have experienced this. And currently, Africa experiences this, India experiences this, other parts of the world. And even today, the United States has managed to fall behind in housing and infrastructure. So there are homeless people in the United States. And infrastructure seriously needs more investment in the United States. So even in the so-called most advanced, richest country in the world, you can still quite easily slip into this problem of having an infrastructure deficit if you simply don't maintain it, or you don't continue to build to keep up with population growth, or just repair the old stuff so it continues to work properly. So it's, although India is really a textbook example of infrastructure deficits in action, it's really a problem that affects everybody. In fact, like, the entire world could use more infrastructure. There are very, very few places in the world where you can say they have enough infrastructure. You don't have to worry about it. It almost never happens. It almost never happens. Almost everywhere, all the time, you could be building more infrastructure and it would benefit people if you do so, right? So that is the idea of an infrastructure deficit. When you're not building infrastructure fast enough to keep up with population growth and population demands. So what does that look like? Let's look at a map. Here we have India. Over here on the west coast is Mumbai. And if we just zoom into the middle of Mumbai, zoom, 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 and let's just like pick a place. Pick a place, let's say here. Oh, this is very good. Look at that. Look at this place. So if we look at just the aerial photo of this, what do you see, right? What's going on? Oh, this is very interesting. Do you know what you're looking at? So look at this stuff. Like, very tightly packed, like very tiny buildings, tightly packed into just like a patch of, it's almost like a rash. It's almost like a rash in the city, like some kind of like a mold or something. And then here we have, oh, these are those apartment blocks, it looks like, right? So this is like, we have streets, a grid of streets, and then we have tiny apartment blocks, and then right next to it, across the road, we have this kind of rash. And then here, more apartment blocks, and then here, oh, we have another rash. Look at that. What's going on here? And like, well, what's going on here? You have all this stuff, which is completely messy and chaotic. And then, oh, you have some nice houses here. Oh, that's interesting. Let's zoom in. Alright, let's go in here. Can we get a street view? What is this? So we have a street view. We are by the river, right? And man, just look across the river. You have these big new apartment blocks. This is still under construction, by the way. So they're just being built back here. And then in front, we have this much smaller stuff, much messier stuff. And then we have this street, which is not wide enough for even 2 cars to go past, because there's people parking everywhere. And then you have these fairly makeshift structures. Is that... Yeah, interesting. So I believe this down here is concrete. Concrete for 2 stories. And then up there, there's like a sheet metal thing stacked on top. Right, so you see like... That's like a sheet metal structure, sheet metal roof. And then this down here is like brick down here. This is kind of brick, and then is that timber? I'm not sure what that is, but it's a pretty rough shack on top of another building which was kind of rough already, right? This looks like concrete, not too sure though. Again, sheet metal roofing. So this is a slum. It's not great in terms of living conditions. Some of these other slums, we can get inside them. Let's see if we can get inside this one. Right, click on here. And then, nope, click on here, and then look for a street view. Alright, so again, fairly similar things. Look at that. Like really, really kind of tiny structures. They're all stacked on top of each other. That looks sturdier than most of the other buildings, actually. This might be better than some of the other parts. Fewer sheet metal structures on top, but not great. Right, not great. It's fairly low quality out this. Oh, what's going on there? low quality architecture. We have like a the concrete frame with cinder blocks infill. Right, so those are the slums. But I don't want you to come to the conclusion that the entirety of India looks like that, because it doesn't. If we come over here, out of the slums, we have, you know, it's fairly okay. These buildings are, they could use some maintenance, I guess. Somebody maybe should come along and scrub the outside. The sign's broken, but the building itself is okay, right? Right, so like a building like this, it could use some maintenance. And then further back, behind there, look at this. This is under construction. So that, there's still a crane back there, and they're still working on the upper floors. But if you imagine this is finished, the windows are put in. Oh, it's a pretty nice new apartment block. Oh, look at that. And then there's little stuff in front which is a bit more dubious. But there's new stuff being built all the time in India, right? And then as we come across here, we get back to like slums again. Right, new block, and then we have slums, and then this is a relatively new block. Could do with some water blasting on the outside to clean the walls a little bit. But if you imagine if you clean the walls a bit, it's fine. It's a fine apartment block, right? So India really is a place of contrasts. Right, look at this thing. Look at these things. You have like new shiny. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. You have like shiny new buildings. Oh, look at that glass. Big glass structure. Right next to literal slums. And this is what we mean by an infrastructure deficit. Because look, Indians know how to build proper houses. Right? It's not like they don't know how to do it. They've done it in some places. It's just that they're not building proper houses fast enough to house all the people. And so some of the people are stuck in the slums. And until more buildings, and then they're building all the time, they're building new housing all the time, but they're still not managing to keep up with the infrastructure. Like the infrastructure is still not keeping up with the population, right? It's the problem. And so that's why you have patches like this, and then areas like this, and then patches like this, and then areas like this, which is okay. I think this is fine actually. Let me just look at this. What does this look like on the ground? Oh, this looks fine. Look at that. It's perfectly fine. I mean, I'd be okay living here. I wouldn't mind. Look at these apartments. And they're so close to each other, right? Oh, this is perfectly fine. Like, you wouldn't mind living in here, right? So India, this is India. Like, this is like right here is fine, and right here is not fine at all. And so it's not like they can't do it. It's that they can't do it fast enough, right? They know how to do it. They know how to build good housing. They can't build it fast enough. And you end up with a city that looks like this. And it's not just this part either. You don't think I'm cherry picking or anything. It's like all of Mumbai is like this. Like, this is fine, this is not, right? this is not fine, and then this is fine, and then like this is fine, and then this is not fine. Like all of Mumbai is like this. Like what does this look like on the ground? Can we see it? No? Yeah, what does this look like on the ground? Like way too crowded, the streets are way too narrow. The street is here and people have just put stuff onto the street because there's not enough space. You see what I mean? There's more people than there is space, and so they just kind of crowd onto the road. Like all the shops, there's not enough shop space, so they just kind of spill onto the road, and now you can't drive a car here anymore because all the shops are on the road because there's not enough space for people. So this is like, and this is like pretty makeshift stuff, right? This is clearly not, like we didn't have a proper engineer do this. And then back there, there's a new tower being built. And they're building new towers because they're trying to move people out of this into this, right? They're trying to give people better houses to live in. And they're just not doing it fast enough. And I don't know if there's any way to solve this problem, right? Like how do you just have to build faster? Just build faster. I mean, that's easy to say, but it's very difficult to actually do. Okay, so this is Mumbai. And this is what it looks like to have an infrastructure deficit. Let me just look at this as well. And then this is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. No problem. And the entirety of Mumbai is like this. Oh, what is this? And this is fine. This is not. This is all fine. And then you have like, what's going on here? What's going on there? It's like, oh, what's happening? Like, what's this? What's this? And then like, this is okay? And then there's this? And you just go on and on and on, and the entirety of the city is like this. Fascinating, fascinating. Alright, so that's what infrastructure deficits look like, right? If the entire city was slums, you would say, okay, it's just a complete failure. They have no idea what's going on. But that's not the case. It's not that the whole city is slums. Wild, right? And in the game represents this fairly convincingly, right? We have, as we see in the real world, like we have towers going up, and then we have slums right next to it, literally. When we get higher up and look around, we'll see that actually there's a lot of shiny buildings in the distance, right? Just not here. Okay, so let's go and take a closer look at the infrastructure in the game right now. To start with, the apartment that I just came out of, this is what they call a chawl. C-H-A-W-L, a chawl. I might be pronouncing that wrong, sorry, I'm not Indian. A chawl is an old working class tenement. So it's like a housing block for relatively low-paid working class people. There's a Wikipedia page if you want to look at it. Oh, there it is. So, the chawls, so infrastructure deficits in India has been going on for a long, long time. So here it says like the first chawls were constructed in the early 1700s, so several hundred years. And it's still a problem in India. Oh my goodness. It's because the population just keeps growing, and you keep trying to catch up, and you just never catch up. So the chawls, they were built to house industrial workers. So again, like remember what I said? When you industrialize, people move out of the countryside and into the cities to find industrial jobs, which pay better, but then the living conditions in the city, especially if you have a housing deficit, is atrocious. And so you try to rapidly build housing to house all these people coming in. And the chawls, a lot of them were not very well built. They were built quickly and cheaply, and not well. Some of them were built out of wood, out of timber, but given how crowded they became, it was pretty much impossible to maintain or to renovate them. Like if you have a building and you have the proper number of people living in it, it's okay. But once you start overcrowding, which is what happened, once you start overcrowding, things start to fall apart really quick. Because the house is not designed to accommodate that many people, and so like the services like the doors and windows and corridors and even just like toilets and kitchens, when you overuse them, then they start to wear out, and so things start falling apart really fast. And so a lot of the chores just turned into absolute disasters, and those would have been priority for redevelopment because it's not, you're not good, because like they become more dangerous to people than them just not having houses. Like when you, it says down here, like sanitation, look at this. Families on the floor have to share a common block of latrines. Tenements with private bathrooms are highly sought after and may be 50% more expensive than the price of a normal chore. So on a normal chore, you have shared toilets. And you know how disgusting those can get, right? And if disease starts spreading because of poor sanitation, then living in the chore is worse for your health than you just sleeping outside. So then why sleep in the chore if it's gonna kill you? So then that chore just has to be demolished and rebuilt because it's like it's even worse for people than not having anything to live in at all. So that happens when you have low quality housing that's also overpopulated and becomes overcrowded, right? In the game though, this chore is fine. It is not the disaster that some of the chores have become. Let's go take a look inside, or closer look at least. So this appears to be built out of concrete. So already that's much better than wood. Although the fact that it's cracking is a pretty bad sign. It looks like it's made out of concrete, so it's more sturdy and more likely to withstand overcrowding than like timber. Like if you put too many people on timber, it'll fall down. Same for concrete, but less likely. Down on the bottom, on the ground floor, we have shops all around, which is probably necessary given how many people are here. You need plenty of shops to serve those people. If we come inside, we have an interior courtyard. So this is kind of nice. So the idea of tenement blocks with interior courtyards is like you give people a bit of an outdoor space, which is good for their health, to be able to just kind of step out. But it's, outdoor space, but it's off the street, so you kind of have some privacy. And in a lot of chores like this, and even in other similar courtyard tenements around the world, if your neighbors are nice, and if the people here are generally okay, you can get a real good community going, because everybody just kind of see each other all the time, and they have this shared space that they can do stuff in. You see this chore, they have a bit of a stage here in the courtyard. So you imagine like you have kind of meetings and performances every now and then, like the whole community can get together and do stuff. So when it's good, it can be really good. Like the people can have a really good community life. Unfortunately, it's not always good. Sometimes things go bad, right? Sometimes you have criminal elements coming in. You have bad people coming in, extorting people, demanding money, maybe selling drugs. So if you have bad people come in, then this becomes a real problem, because like a courtyard like this, you can easily fortify it. Like imagine a gang comes in here, takes over, and they just kind of build walls or put guards on the entrances. And now they have a fort, right? They have a walled fort from which to do their criminal stuff. So yeah, so this sort of design, if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it can be really bad, right? This one looks like it's good, so that's good. Interestingly, we have some timber columns in here. So we have the main structure appears to be concrete, and then I believe that's like is that the wooden frame with concrete panels, or is that steel, or is that, I'm not sure what is this? What is this stuff? Not too sure what this is, but it seems to be a rather unlikely mixture of timber and concrete, with the timber holding up the concrete. Not sure what that means. This might be some mishmash of different chores, because as I said before, some chores are just completely timber, and so then the timber columns there would make sense. Here, given that the main structure is concrete, I'm not sure the concrete columns make that much sense, to be perfectly honest. Maybe it does. Maybe it's okay. It's not what I would do. I would just have like concrete columns, right? Anything else to say? Not really. Oh, we have satellite dishes. And we do have electricity, look at that. We have air conditioning, we have wires coming in. And if we just look at one of these apartments, right? Just come in here. So we have toilet with plumbing with running water. So already this is a chore with proper infrastructure. Some of these older chores and some of the worst ones, like there'd be no plumbing. And there'd be no running water, you have to like get water somewhere else. Remember what I said in what we read in the Wikipedia article is that some of them will have like common latrines for the whole floor. The chores here, they have private bathrooms, private toilets. There's no rooms, but they do have a kitchen and enough space for a bed and maybe a little bit of a lounge. So that's good. And also you will notice that there's a double bed and that's it. So there's only 2 people at most. 2 people in this space, which is okay, right? It's not luxurious, but it's not overcrowded, right? This is not overcrowded. In some cities today, not India, are more overcrowded than this. I come from Hong Kong. Hong Kong is worse than this. Can you imagine Hong Kong is worse than Mumbai? But not all of Mumbai is like this. It's just a video game, right? I think the video game version of Mumbai, this might be a bit idealistic. I'm not sure you can get much of these in a real chore in India. I think they'll just have more people in them. If we come over here, another one, look at this. So again, separate bathroom, and like 1 double bed, and that's it, and this much space. And then a kitchen. Right, so if you lived in an apartment like this, you're fine. If you didn't have 2 people. But in reality, more likely there'll be like 6 people. There'll be like 3 beds, 3 double beds, and no lounge. That's more likely what would happen in a low-income housing. And even that's kind of generous. I mean, I can imagine 10 people trying to squeeze in here. It wouldn't be out of the question, right? Just because, you know, rent is expensive, right? If you like try to squeeze 10 or 12 people in here, then it becomes overcrowded, and then hygiene becomes a problem. But that's what happens when you're poor. The apartment that I've appropriated is actually kind of smaller. Just check. So this one has kind of a kitchen, a very, very small lounge, and then a bedroom, and then no toilet. Isn't that interesting? Not sure why. There's no public latrine. This might be an oversight, I'm not sure. Oh, this is locked. Can I come over here? Oh, this is locked too, never mind. It's not too important, we don't have to go into every single apartment. So this chore is not overcrowded and is in fairly good condition. And it might explain why it's still standing. Because a lot of the bad chores, the ones that have become disasters, they would have been demolished. They would be priority for redevelopment, right? And so you wouldn't keep them around. So the fact that a chore has been kept around is probably means that it was kind of okay to begin with. Alright. Anything else we need to talk about? The roof is tiled. That's interesting. Can we see the roof here? No, we can't see the roof there. Tiles are kind of expensive, you know, compared to just sheet metal. You can see over there, are those tiles? I think they are, but the texture is a little bit off. So I think those are supposed to be chores as well, all the way around. Okay. That's all I have to say about this, I believe. Yeah, so I think this is a bit idealized. I wouldn't believe this completely if I were you. I mean, I don't believe this completely. Like, I think a real chore in India would be in not such a good condition. Maybe. Okay, so we have the slums, but before we go into the slums, I want to run around. Let me just run around the outside of the slums. Oh, so we're on the street, right? And just like in the real India, there's a lot of people on the street. unlike the real India, there's no traffic. This is purely a gameplay thing. There's no moving traffic in any part of the game in Hitman. If this was real India, I believe there'll be cars moving around all the time. So running around, so this is the slums from the outside. As we saw on Street View, on Google Maps, we have concrete construction down below and then shacks built on top. Like some of the slums in the real India is not quite this bad, but here like they really just started stacking more and more stuff on top. We'll talk more about that later on. But basically, like you just don't have enough housing, and so you have like housing, and then oh we need more housing, so you just got more housing, and then more housing, and then more housing. Just try and keep stacking more and more stuff on top to house all the people. Is basically what's going on here. Look at that! Look at that stuff. It's just like just keep putting more, just keep putting more houses on top, and it's just like, ah, it's desperation architecture. You know what I mean? Desperation architecture. So out here, we get onto the waterfront, and look at that. And just a short distance away, we have shiny new towers. Shiny new towers. I mean, there's slightly less shiny apartments down below, but look at this new construction going up with bridges, and then slums right next to it. Wild. So here, this appears to be a retaining... Oh, a land reclamation is what's going on here. How do you reclaim land? Let me come over here. So today, these days, how you reclaim land is... First of all, you drive piles into the seafloor, and then in between the piles, you put these steel panels. So you put beams in, and then you have these metal sheets to form a wall, and you start piling dirt inside, and the piles and the metal sheets hold the soil in. And so then after you've done it, you end up with, can we get closer? You end up with this, like so you have piles, those are piles back there, and then you have the metal sheets in between, and then you just have earth on one side and then the water on the other side. And that's how you reclaim land today. In the past, you just kind of just dump more and more dirt out into the water. Back before you had like piling and big steel sheets. I'm not too sure why the slum is on reclaimed land though. I mean, it can be. It's just that if you've reclaimed the land, you've created new land, and that would be the perfect opportunity to build new buildings, as opposed to just leave the new land unoccupied and then have the slum just grow onto it. It seems like you've missed an opportunity to just build a new apartment block or something. So that over there, we have that new tower going up on reclaimed land, and that makes sense, right? You reclaim new land, build a new tower. Cool. Here, the slum is sitting on reclaimed land, and that's a little bit strange to me. Not sure what's going on there. Also, in the foreground, you'll see makeshift shelters for homeless people. So if you think the slum is bad, this is worse. If you think that's bad, yeah, no, even that's not enough. There's also this. Yeah, housing deficit. This is what happens when you have a housing deficit. Coming around this way, let's go up out to the waterfront. We have a river. Boats. I think those are fishing boats, not too sure. But I'm not sure I would eat the fish around here, to be honest. It seems... the water seems likely to be polluted. Oh, so you see that? That's a pretty cool bridge, right? Unfortunately, the train is not moving. I think they're making some sort of commentary about mismanagement. Like, they've built this fancy bridge for the train, but the train doesn't run. Not sure what happened. Not sure what's happening over there. I guess I'll just say that if you do have an infrastructure deficit, mismanagement doesn't help. Like, even if you have the expertise to build the infrastructure, if you don't have the managerial expertise to run it properly, it doesn't help. I'm not gonna get too much into Indian politics, but sometimes there's allegations of corruption and mismanagement. So let me just say that. Clearly, it doesn't help if that happens. But I just want to note that like new buildings are going up everywhere all the time. It's not like they're not building stuff. They're building new stuff all the time. It's just they're not building it fast enough to house all the people. And so then some of the people end up homeless. Down here, right? Like a big highway bridge there, and then just a whole bunch of people crowded underneath it. Oh look, there's a train going across that bridge over there, isn't that cool? Well, at least that train is running. If a dude's fishing here, again, I'm not sure I would trust the fish that you catch from this water, but who am I to tell him what to do, right? Back here we have a recycling yard. A recycling yard, pretty much just a big pile of rubbish, but it is somewhat sorted. Look at that, there's plastics and metals, I suppose. A city like Mumbai generates a lot of rubbish. And I guess recycling is a good thing, except if you look at how they're recycled. You have a couple of dudes smelting the metal by hand. I don't know if this is good. Seems like a occupational hazard to me, but they're recycling the rubbish, which is nominally a good thing. We have massive power pylons. Look at that. It's just stuff piled on top of other stuff. Desperation architecture. Alright, continuing around. We have an abandoned train station. We'll come back to the abandoned train station later. But I would just say that it seems strange to me that for a place that is in such desperate need of infrastructure, they would just abandon perfectly fine infrastructure. Right, so I don't know why the train station's abandoned. I don't think there are any actual abandoned train stations in Mumbai. In the real Mumbai, either you would keep using it, or if you're gonna close it down, you would redevelop the land, because you're in desperate need of land to house more people, right? You wouldn't just abandon it and leave land there doing nothing. Over here we have an open sewer. Just imagine the smell, you guys. Imagine the smell. It's an open sewer, literally poop. And so you might think, wow, that seems terrible. Why don't they close the sewer? Because closing the sewer, what do? You just put some concrete slabs on top and you've closed it, right? Why would you leave it open? Well, the problem is that in the slums, a lot of the buildings don't have a sewer connection. So what do? You poop in the bucket, you bring the bucket out, you dump the poop in the open sewer. That's how you poop when you don't have a sewer connection in your house. And in fact, over here, we have a toilet built directly over the open sewer. This is a toilet. You put that's your toilet hole, and you just poop directly into the open sewer because you don't have a proper toilet in the house, right? So in order to close the sewer, you don't just close the sewer. Before you can close the sewer, you have to make sure everybody lives in a house that has a sewer connection inside and a working toilet inside, and then you can close the sewer. What a disaster, right? And again, like, this is infrastructure deficit. Like, why open sewers? Are you serious? Yeah, no. Like when the houses are built like this, and they're not built properly, they're not proper houses, they're just kind of, ad hoc. People just kind of putting up shelters wherever they can. Then you have this problem, right? And the fact that there's even an open sewer is already better than nothing. Imagine if they don't even have an open sewer. Where does the poop go? Where does the poop go? Good question. At least they have an open sewer. Alright, coming around. Coming around. Oh, if we come back here, like, look at the paving on the ground. with paving like this. And look at this paving. This paving is kind of cool, right? It looks interesting. An interesting pattern. At some point, this was like a proper neighborhood, and like you have trees in planters. Look at this. So at some point there was town planning here. At some point this was a like a proper neighborhood, and then a lot of people moved in, and everything just got overwhelmed, right? And if you just look at the ground, in fact, I look over here, with like a tree and a planter there, right? You have this paving. Look at this. This is the curb, and this is the road. And then this is the curb, and then this is the sidewalk of the chores. But if you look at the buildings, the road disappears under the building. And this is not a mistake. It is not a mistake. What happened is there used to be proper roads, but the population grew so fast and so like so many people, they just had to like build more stuff to live in, and because there's no space, it just kind of grew onto the road, and then the road stops working. This is not, it's not like they didn't make a mistake. No, this is what they mean to do, is because the slum just kind of grew out of control, the roads got taken over by the slum buildings. And you can kind of see it around here as well. You have the curb, and then what used to be a street, and then like the buildings sitting on top of the road. And then back here, look at this. Well, I'm not sure why there's a tree and a planter in the middle of the roadway. Not sure how that happened. And then you have this elevated walkway being built, and they just kind of put it on top of the old road, right on top. Because they have no, right? They don't have the capacity, the construction capacity to like fix things. They just kind of keep putting more and more stuff on top. And this is, again, desperation urban planning, desperation architecture is like when you don't have enough construction capacity to do things properly, like you just kind of keep piling stuff on top. It's not good. It's not good. Man, I really hope India gets on top of its infrastructure deficit. Like you look at, again, like look at Mumbai, man. Look at Mumbai. What's this from? Inventory 2024. Apparently it's new. I'm not sure how old the aerial photos are, but man, just look at it. It's like slums, and then like proper developments, and then slums, and then proper developments. And it's just because you just can't build the proper stuff fast enough. Alright, so let's go inside the slums. If I can stop lagging. Let's go inside the slums and take a walk around and look at it from the inside, right? So, look at that. A building? I'm not sure if the second floor was built later or not, but that up there is clearly a later addition on top of this, right? So that's just sheet metal, that's a temporary shack on the roof of another building, which probably was built on top of the other building. Oh, you also have like an elevated walkway, and this elevated walkway, it goes from the main streets. I think it's supposed to bypass the slums, because if you look, it comes over here, and then it goes back down to the abandoned train station. So I think this elevated walkway was supposed to be a walkway to bypass the slums to connect the main road to the train station. But you'll notice there's no people here. Despite how insanely crowded the slums is, nobody actually uses this. It's like they built infrastructure, but it's not useful. I guess it's not useful because look, this just connects to these rooftop shacks. I suppose some people should be up here, but this is in the game. There's nobody here. It's kind of funny. Alright, so into the slums. Again, you have what used to be a proper street here, right? And then that just ends. And you have all this stuff. Let's see what we can see. Most of the buildings are not accessible to us in the game. But you can see that the street planning, or rather the lack of street planning, everything's just kind of improvised. Did this used to be a street? With a curb? And then a building is just in the street, right? And then we have another curb like that. Yeah, no, there's no way to figure out like what came first, what came after, or like where anything is supposed to be. Can we see anything useful here? So this appears to be concrete, right? That appears to be concrete. No, that's definitely concrete. And then we have sheet metal up there, as we said. Can we come in here? This doesn't really tell us anything useful. Oh, you would notice there is electricity. Look at that. The lights are on. So there's electricity at least. But electricity is relatively easy to connect, right? You just have to like join the wires up. So it's not like they're completely without services. It's just that they don't quite have the full set. Every now and then there's public toilets. Although they could be better maintained. But the idea of the public toilet is that because the houses don't have plumbing, they don't have private toilets, they would use the public toilets to poop. Because, I mean, you gotta give people somewhere to poop. You don't want the poop to just go everywhere, because then people are gonna die from disease. So the idea is you have public toilets to try to keep the sanitation problem in check, but I'm not sure how successful that is in the game at least. And presumably the public toilets just flushes straight out into the open sewer anyway. You might as well just poop onto the sewer directly, like what's the difference, right? We have, look at that, I think it's steel beams, although the steel beams are kind of small, right? Steel beams and then concrete in between for the flooring is what that looks like. Although sometimes there's a bit of brick, right? Somebody's covered up the street, not sure what that's about or why they did it. There you have like, is that metal I-beams holding up a concrete floor above? Possibly. You gotta wonder how they managed to get the materials in. So, like, you have narrow streets, right? And it's always crowded. Bricks you can get in here, because bricks are like individually small. You can just kind of bring the bricks in a little bit at a time. Even if the streets are narrow, you can do it. Concrete, you can actually bring that in too, because it's like a bag of concrete. You get some water, you mix it up, and then you pour it. So concrete, you can bring it in. And I guess small bits of steel beams, you can bring those in as well. So all the materials are like things that you can move in tight spaces. We have another toilet. Somebody's, what is that? Are they cooking or are they washing? Oh, those are gloves? I guess they're washing. It's just it's lost. Seems like a lost cause to me trying to wash that. In here, oh, we have oh, I can't get in there. Sad face. Am I gonna get in trouble if I come in here? I might get in trouble if I come in here. Let's just check. Let me not do that. There are other buildings we can get into. We have metal workers right in the middle of the slum again. This seems like a disaster, like a health disaster. Right? I keep trying to look for things to talk about the architecture, but there really isn't that much to say except that it's kind of a disaster everywhere you look. I mean, there's satellite internet. I think that's satellite internet. There's air conditioning and there's electric lights. So at least there's that. There's at least electricity if there's nothing else. Alright, continuing around. Yeah, there's a pretty basic pattern of steel beams and concrete, and then above 2 levels of concrete there's the sheet metal stuff. And the thing is, these buildings are quite permanent, right? People live here for a long time. It's not like it's not a temporary phenomenon. It's a thing that's been going on for a long time. These slums. We have a shoe shop in the middle of the slum.
Hey!
Shops on the ground, in the streets. Pot plants? Again, it seems a little optimistic. But you know, people, look, it's slums, but it is still people's homes, right? And people still, like, treat it as a home. And so,
Sir, please.
people will do their best to
discerning gentleman. We have the finest
make it as homely as possible. Oh, we can get into this one. Nice. So what is that? It looks like steel beams, and then there's metal sheets. Oh, I know what this is. And then you pour concrete on top. Yeah. So first of all, concrete walls, right? Easy enough. You put the steel beams, and then you put steel I-beams, and then you put like a a steel plate straddling the I-beams, and then you pour concrete on top of the steel beam, the steel plate, and then you put the tiling on top of that to make the floor. Is what they've done, I believe. Or maybe not. No, yeah, alright. Yeah. I think. Something like that. That's one way to build a house. It looks like that's what they've done here. Okay, let's go back outside.
Hello,
This is a
sir.
tailor's shop, by the
Welcome
way.
to our shop. Can I help?
And then back outside. Not too much to say about any of this.
The barber. My job interview is in an hour. I can't go like this.
Alright, and then we're back out into the chores. Alright, I've said everything, I believe. So the next place we want to go to is over towards the abandoned train station. But to do that, we need a different outfit. We're gonna pretend to be somebody else. So let me get back to my apartment. And we're gonna change clothes into the Queen's bodyguard. Oh, look at me, the Queen's bodyguard. There's a queen in the slums. We'll get to that. So the queen, in the game, there's a slum queen. There's a despot.
Hi there.
Who rules over the slums. Not sure how realistic that is. It sounds like a Bollywood fiction to me. But the idea is that there's somebody who exploits the poor workers in the slums. And in fact, they work here. Mumbai Laundry, wash, dry and fold.
Have a great day.
So what they have is men washing clothes by hand. Oh, that's a bit of a disaster, isn't it? So this only makes sense if their labor is cheaper than a washing machine.
Little people like us don't have a say in those things.
Can you imagine?
We just do as we're told.
Your labor is worth less than a washing machine? That would make sense. That would make sense. That would be why this makes sense. So laundries like this,
Foreman's
big
busy. Come back another
communal
time.
laundries like
Go.
this,
Do some more
they
work.
are a thing in India
Please.
historically, and to an extent they're a thing in India today.
So tired.
If we go to Wikipedia, Dhobi Ghat. So Dhobi Ghat is an open-air laundry place in Mumbai, India. It's a real place. This is what it looks like from above. You can see like the places where people wash the clothes by hand, not laundry machines. They do it by hand. And like this, yeah, no, this goes on right now. And like they spend the whole day just standing in the chemicals. I hope they're wearing like gumboots or something because this is terrible for your health. I mean, it's pretty terrible to their arms and hands as well. And apparently, Dhobi Ghat is a famous tourist destination today, which seems kind of atrocious to me because you're making tourism out of people performing back-breaking labor for very little money, and you're going there to see this happen because it's some sort of tourist attraction. That sounds awful. Dhobi Ghat is to the south. It's there. There's Dhobi Ghat. Right there. We can get a street view of it. Let's see what this looks like. So behind this wall here, you can't see it from the street. But on this side you can see the old slums. If we move over a little bit, this is like the main entrance, right? And if you zoom in, like over the main entrance, there's this... Oh, can I zoom in? Like little pictures of people doing laundry by hand. And inside there is where it happens. Yeah, so historically, before there were washing machines, this sort of thing makes sense. Right, you need someone to wash clothing by hand, and given the population density of India, it kind of makes sense that you would have like one big washing place to do a lot of the laundry for a lot of people around the city.
This is my last break.
It's just that the fact that it still exists today seems whack to me. Like, it's, why did you not just have washing machines? Anyway. And like turning it into a tourist attraction? What's attractive about it? What, your colonial exploitation of indigenous labor? That's the attraction? Ah, it's disgusting, isn't it? I don't know, is that just me? So up here there's another elevated walkway. In the game, it's been taken over by the Slum Queen, and so there's guards up here and nobody's allowed to come up here. Not that there's any reason to come onto the walkway anyway, because if we come this way, you will see that the walkway doesn't actually join up. So there's this part here, and then there's that part there, and they just kind of they don't line up, they don't join up, they they go past each other. I think this is some sort of commentary on, again, bureaucratic mismanagement, like just bad planning and bad management, because you can't even make a bridge line up. I guess you could just fix it if you just kind of, you know, make it bend around. It's not that you can't fix it, it's just yeah, I think they're making a comment about how bad the management is in India. Alright, let's get back down and let's go into the abandoned train station, right? Ah, would you really go to India just to take photos of people performing back-breaking labor for tiny amounts of money?
Hello there, sir.
It seems crazy.
It's going on and on and on. Just a few minutes.
I don't want to get too much into politics, but colonialism is whack. India was a British colony, and it was terrible. Okay. The abandoned train station. It looks like this. Look at that. It's steel, right? It's steel, but it's made to look like arches and columns. And look at that. There's like a round window up there. So it's steel, but they made it look a little bit fancy, right? Isn't that interesting? This is so earlier on in the industrial era, and in fact you see this over in Europe as well. So when the industrial era first arrived, and I guess later on as well, but early on people didn't really understand how to use steel for architecture because it's this new material and you're using it for something that you've never used it for before. And so you would like try to use steel to copy the older styles. So you try to recreate stone buildings, except it's in steel, because you haven't really thought about how to build in steel, so you just make the same shapes as the stone buildings. You see what I mean? And so these arches make a lot of sense if it's like brick, because how do you make bricks stay up? Is if you can put it in an arch, then the bricks will stay up. Like, do I have to explain this to you? Because like you have bits of stone, and they tend to fall apart. Like they don't really stick together. You have mortar, but they don't really stick together. So in order to make like bricks span an opening like a window, if you put it in an arch, then they support each other and they form a stable structure. Whereas if you try to have them in a straight line, they just fall down, right? Each bricks will just fall down. So in an arch, they all sit on top of each other and they support each other. So arches make sense with like brick and stone. They don't make sense in steel, because steel is perfectly fine just being a straight piece all the way across. So making steel into arches like this structurally makes no sense. But if you're used to designing stone structures, you're used to just putting arches over every window, and when you give it a new material in steel, you just keep doing the same thing because that's what you're used to doing. So this is like old, early industrial era sort of thinking, sort of architecture thinking, right? And so even though like we have a steel structure and a steel structure, you can tell that this is older than that, not just because it's rusty, but because that is very clearly steel philosophy, right? The shapes look like steel. What steel would do. It doesn't. You can't build stone like that. If you build stone like that, it won't stay together. It will just fall apart, right? So you can only build that out of steel, that shape. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't really work in concrete. Doesn't really work in wood. Doesn't really work in stone. Whereas this shape, it doesn't really make sense in steel. You see what I mean? I hope that makes sense. Yeah, like why the arches? This arch is okay because an arch this big, it kind of makes sense even in steel, but you don't have to do that. But this down here is kind of silly in steel. So in the train yard, or in the abandoned train yard, we have these things. Look at this. This is an old luxury car train. Look at that. That's curious, isn't it? An abandoned train station, an abandoned old train station with abandoned luxury car train. Look at that. Stained glass. So an old luxury car train. Let's get inside the train station. Oh, get past this. Oh, look at that. And then you have light filtering through the glass windows on the roof, the skylights. So filtered like this makes it look like sort of like a cathedral or something, right? Behind the stained glass, it feels a bit like that. And then if it comes through here, there's a garden. There's a garden in an old train station with like pretty lights.
can't fail the queen. Not ever.
Oh, the queen. And you come through here, and there's the queen's throne. This is pure fiction. So this is pure Bollywood fiction, right? So the idea is there's a slum queen. In the middle of, like, or beside the slum, there's an abandoned train station with old luxury carriages. And there's a slum queen that rules over the poor people of the slum. She lives in a garden inside the old train station. I'm sure this doesn't happen in real life. This is like something from a romance novel or something, right? We have a little wash basin here. Look at that, with pretty lights. And then here we have the queen's car. Oh, look at that. And this is luxurious enough to be a palace room, right? Oh, look at that. Fancy bed. Fancy four-poster bed. This is silly. This is not real life. And then you have like servants. You have like a table under a tree. And then over here, there's a fancy shower. I don't see a shower here, though. There actually is a shower here in the game. There's like a water supply there. Does the shower come out of the peacock mouth? I think it does, actually. So this is a fancy shower for the queen. And I don't really know what to say about this because it's so silly. But the thing is, you kind of want to believe it. Given how, like, what's the word for it? Given how despairing, like the real slum is. Like, you look at the actual slum, and you think, wow, people have to live in these conditions. It's so terrible, right? You wish they didn't have to. I guess you kind of wish this was true. You wish that there was some sort of magic place inside the slum and there's a slum queen. I think there's a part of people that wishes there was something beautiful inside this place. Because the slum is so terrible. But this is fantasy, man. Reality is slums are slums. There's no slum queen. There's no secret garden inside the slum. The slum is the slum. You just have to deal with it. Okay, so on top of the train station roof, we do get a better view of the surrounding city. We've seen those before. We have like gleaming towers over there. Over here we have somewhat decent apartment buildings. So the apartment buildings in Mumbai, they're not that good. Like they're livable, but they're not great. The issue is that because their housing deficit is so bad, they need to build these things as fast as possible. And so the quality of the apartment blocks is not the best. Like they're trying to build these as fast as possible to get people out of the slums, right? Because the slums are even worse. So none of these are luxury. None of these are like really high quality. But they're better than the slums, and they're just trying to get people out of the slums as quickly as they can. And so they're building, you know, like in Western Europe or in the United States, these would be low quality housing, right? But you can get these up quickly and cheaply, and so you can get people out of the slums quickly, and that's the point. And you can see like they're going on everywhere, and there's like new ones being built all the time. And that's basically Mumbai. It's like they're just building houses all the time. But it's still not enough. Alright, let's get back out and let's get out of the abandoned train station, the Queen's Palace, I guess. You know, I just realized there's no platforms. If this used to be a train station, where are the train platforms? Where you get on the train?
I would.
Train cars, you know, there's no train platforms. Not sure what that's about. Seems a bit strange. it doesn't function as a train station. So if we come over here, we have an old abandoned train yard. Everything's overgrown. It's not used, although, I mean, given that it's been taken over by all these guards, they don't do any gardening outside. So the train line still runs. It just doesn't stop at the station, it goes past the station. Around the back, the architecture is pretty much the same. Not too much to say about it. Back there, what are those? They're not exactly slums. There's no sheds on top of the roof. Oh wait, there it is. Never mind, there is. Maybe those are slums. They look a bit better than the ones on this side though. Or maybe I'm just being optimistic. And a lot more train yard. So this seems really strange to me, because given how crowded that is, I would expect that the slum would just spread all over the abandoned train station as well. Like, wouldn't people just try to live here? I guess if you just keep them off, if you send police or guards to keep people off, they'll stay off. I mean, there's homeless people setting up temporary shelters over here, I guess. But yeah, as I said before, I don't think there are actually any big abandoned train stations in Mumbai. Like, the land is just too valuable. You would just demolish the train station and redevelop it and give better housing to the people living here, right? Like, why would you do this? Okay, next up, let's go back to our apartment and change clothes again. Do the tourists have to pay money to visit the... I mean, if they have to pay money to visit the wash house, okay, I guess that's okay. They better pay a lot of money. Tourism? Tourism to watch, basically, what is slavery? Slave labor. Like, they're not slaves, but they might as well be, given how much they're paid and how bad the work is. Alright, we're gonna change to our elite thug disguise. Oh, look at my thug outfit. And we're gonna go inside the slums again, where there is the headquarters of a criminal gang known as the Crows. Again, I think this is fiction. I don't believe there are real criminal gang hideouts like this in slums. Maybe there is. I mean, there always could be. Why wouldn't there be? The issue is that because there's so many people in the slums, you would not be able to hide your presence inside the slums, because everybody would know, because there's so many people. So the only way you can have a criminal gang hide in the slums is if the people cooperate with you, right? And maybe they do, maybe you just intimidate them enough and they just keep quiet about it. Anyway, back behind these alleys,
Hey, what's up?
we have the gang hideout. And architecturally speaking, the gang hideout is basically just a piece of the slums, right? Look at that. House, house, and then house, and then shacks on top, just piled on top of each other. Is there anything worth talking about? Not sure. Let me just get onto the roof. I guess we should go look at these things up close on the roof. So at some point, the buildings end and the metal shacks begin. I think this is not entirely accurate, because there's no way to get to those metal shacks up there that I can see. I mean, you might say, well, there might be an internal staircase, or maybe there is. Or maybe it's just fudged, right? So this building stops there, and then somebody built a sheet metal shack on top. Interesting. Look how high up it's piled over there. Wild. And none of this is safe, right? None of this complies with the local building code, right?
All I know is that I lived in one of those big houses with 8 bathrooms and an indoor pool and a ship.
This construction is the same as what we saw before. We have the steel bars and then the concrete floor. Not sure how accurate that construction is. I mean, I can see that it would work. Not sure if the real thing is like this. So the gang also has an underground hideout, and it connects to the open sewers. So the open sewers are that way. We are literally in poop.
Oh, hi.
It seems like a really bad idea.
Yeah.
First of all, your hideout is next to poop. Second of all, you know, sometimes it rains in India. Sometimes it rains a lot in India. Like, wouldn't this place flood every now and then? Flood with poop? Yeah, I don't think this is a good idea actually, but what do I know, right? I would say don't live beside a poop, and don't live on the same level as the poop sewer. But if you think it's a good idea, go ahead. Why not? I'm not sure why there's like rooms with doors under the ground, under the slums. Like, how would you build this? Did you build this after the slum was built? Did you dig this out? Or was this built before the slum was built? I don't know. I don't know how this would work. It could be that this used to be... I mean, look at these doors. They're kind of supposed to be airtight. This used to be like a cold room. I don't know what this means. But apparently there's a basement down here. And the basement connects to the open sewers for some reason. Which the pirates have turned into a hideout. I don't think it makes any sense. But it's a video game, I guess. Alright, out of the hideout. So over on this side of the slums, there's a hill. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Look, you go up the stairs, and there's more residences up here. The gang has taken over the hill though. Up here we have more slums actually. Which is a little bit curious because often land higher up would be higher value. But apparently it's just the same old slums in this part of the game. And if I remember right, there's no indoor toilets here either. So remember how there's no toilets in the slums and you have to go to the public toilets or just poop straight into the sewer? Here we have like kitchen, right? Kitchen and big open space. And then here we have, what is that? We have a bed, right? So I guess bedroom. And then we're onto the roof. So there's no toilet, there's no bathroom. There's no running water. So this is slums still. Right, there's no running water, there's bottles, yeah, so they're relying on the bottles for water. I mean there's a fridge, there is electricity, so they have a fridge. Yeah, but no plumbing. Oh, there's electricity there. So the question is, okay look, the question is this. If you're in a slum and there's no plumbing, would it be more expensive on top of the hill? Because being on top of the hill means that you have to bring water up here. I don't know where the water comes from. I hope it's not from a well, because no, there's no way there's gonna be from a well, right? Because we're right next to the river and there's poop channels. I don't think a well would be safe. So you have to bring stuff up the stairs. There's no slopes and there's no vehicle access. So you buy water, you buy groceries. You have to bring them up by hand. You have to carry them up. And then after you poop, you have to take the poop down the stairs to the open sewers because there's no sewers up here and there's no plumbing either. So you're further away. On the one hand, you're further away from the sewers, so it doesn't smell as bad. That's a plus. On the other hand, the sewers are further away, so you have to go further to poop. Or you have to carry the poop further to dump in the sewers, so that's bad. So that's the trade-off. So I guess it's for you to decide whether you would live on top of the hill or on the bottom of the hill. Do you want to be closer to the poop and smell the poop more often, but don't have to walk as far to poop? Or would you rather be further away from the poop, don't smell it as much, but to get to the poop, or to get to your toilet, or to bring the poop to the sewer, you have to walk further with the poop. And this is something you don't have to talk about, or you don't have to think about, because you don't live in a slum, because you live in some luxurious part of the world where your house has indoor plumbing. And so you don't have to think about this. Well, there you go. I hope now you empathize a little bit more with the people who live in slums in Mumbai. Oh, there's a shoe shop here. Here's the thing, right? They live in slums, but they're not actually poor. I mean, they're not poor. Okay, they're kind of poor, but they're not crazy poor. They have food, they kind of have houses, they have electricity, right? There's shops everywhere, so there's like decent commerce. It's just an infrastructure deficit, right? It's just that the city is unable to build infrastructure fast enough to provide for all the people.
Where are we heading today?
I'm trying to find my way back to the chore so I can change clothes again. So that's the gang, the Crow's hideout. Nothing too fancy. And to be honest, kind of small. But that's okay because it's not really it's not a real architecture destination anyway. Not something too interesting for our architecture tour. Alright, so the last outfit, we're gonna switch over to Bollywood Bodyguard. Oh, look at this, a proper suit. So let's get back out and remember that shiny new tower under construction next to the slums? Let's go over there. Over here we have a character called Dawood Rangan. He's a rich man and he's building himself a brand new skyscraper. Hi. Oh, look at these fancy gardens. Right next to the slums, we have fancy gardens with water features and armed guards at the gates to keep the filth out. Armed guards with guns to make sure the people of the slums don't come into the fancy new tower. But the fancy new tower is built right next to the slums. Alright, so the gate there, the gate here. This is like a vehicle access. And then the poor people are just on the other side. I don't think India is quite this crazy, but it's kind of close, right? I mean, we've seen the maps of Mumbai. The fancy buildings are quite close to the slums. Maybe this is a little bit too close. There's usually like a road and then the other people. Alright, in the tower, let's go. So we come up here and we see that the tower is actually not finished, right? So this is unfurnished. We still have bare concrete walls. The vehicle entry is back here, right? So the cars go up there. Let me just stay here.
My back is killing me.
The elevator shaft? Only one elevator, so it can't be a huge tower. The elevator is not in place yet.
I'm a set designer.
Where am I going? Oh, did I go the wrong way? I went the wrong way.
Talents are not appreciated. Rangan.
So I guess this is sort of like the entrance lobby. And then above the entrance lobby, we have security. Security room. I mean, it's not properly finished, but it's functioning already. It's a little strange that you would occupy the building before it's actually finished. Usually you wouldn't do this. You would like actually like paint the walls and put down the carpets and whatnot before you set up inside it. Here we have car parking. Not sure if this is enough space though. Look at this turn. You have to turn the car around and around, and it's like glass. This seems a little bit too tight to me. But this is the car parking level, I guess. And then above that, is there anything we need to say about the architecture? Not really. No, not yet. We come up here, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's properly finished. Look, this flooring. Oh, and then that's under the construction. Alright, so this part is properly finished. At the moment, they're filming a Bollywood movie up here. We have cameras, we have a bit of a setup. So it's a bit silly, but also very Indian. Okay, inside. So the character, Dawood, this is his apartment, I think. I'm not too sure though. So he's got a thing going on here. It's paintings of him on the walls. What can we say about this architecture? Not much. Like, it looks modern and fancy, but I honestly don't think there's any artistic merit to any of this. Like, architecturally speaking, it doesn't reference anything. It doesn't speak about anything. It's just kind of like stuff. It's just stuff in a space. Yeah, no, it doesn't say anything. There's no meaning. I don't know, like if you haven't studied architecture, I don't know if you can see what's going on. But like you come in, is this the front door? Like there's a big double height space with nothing in it, and it doesn't do anything. And then next to it, okay, this is dining. Okay, dining. We finally see something. But the dining is like, what's the? There's no view. I mean, there is a view behind this stuff, but then this stuff kind of blocks the view. It's like the staircase comes straight into the dining. Like there's no the circulation is just nothing. It's just open. There's a TV. That's a TV. There's a TV there, but then where would you sit to watch TV? You can't watch the TV. Would you sit here and watch TV sideways?
I am dead on my feet today, man.
It doesn't mean anything. Like it's just a bunch of stuff in a space, and none of it actually works, right? Or am I the crazy one? But I think this is on purpose, right? So Dawood, his character is supposed to be somebody who's all style and no substance, and so this actually fits the character. So I don't know if this is... I'm pretty sure it's not just bad design. Like this is intentionally bad design, which is different from just bad design. Just bad design is when you don't know what you're doing, right? Intentionally bad design is when you intentionally do things wrong. I think this is intentionally bad design. And what the hell? This is like there's a Buddha statue. Okay. Oh, isn't this blasphemous? Look at this. The chairs are set up beside the Buddha statue. Usually you would worship the Buddha, but here you're not worshiping the Buddha. You're sitting next to the Buddha and you're putting yourself on the same level as Buddha. is what you do. Like imagine,
Look, this
like,
is a bit much and I'm not comfortable with it.
cause this is religious, right? Like imagine you go to church instead of like sitting on the pews and praying to the cross, you like stand next to the cross and just kind of put your arms around the cross like you're a buddy. What the hell's going on here? It's amazing. Like it's amazingly bad. Like it's so intentionally bad
Charm.
that it's actually amazing, right? And then out here, there's what is this? It's not a swimming pool. It's because it's too shallow. There's seats next to this very very shallow pond. And what is the purpose of this? There's no purpose. You can't use this space because there's hardly any space. You can't swim here. Like what is this? Alright, so down here this is unfinished. If this was a properly designed house, I would assume that the kitchen would go down here because you would want the kitchen to be close to dining. At the moment, the film crew have set up a little buffet here for their use. And then if we come next door, you'll see that there's like a makeup room and a dressing room, again for the Bollywood production going on upstairs. So because it's completely unfinished, we can't really tell what any of these spaces are. Although I will note that in between here, there is a toilet. And not just any toilet, but like a public toilet, you know? Like there's 2 stalls. So this is not like a private house toilet, because a private house toilet wouldn't be arranged like this. This is like a public office building toilet, or some sort of public toilet. So I'm not sure what these spaces are, because again, this space directly links to the guy's private home. I think this is a private home, I'm not sure. Or it could be this is just a movie set. This whole thing could just be a movie set, that's also possible. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Hope we get a few days off soon.
Over here, we have a painter painting pictures of Darwood in this entire room. Oh, look at those lights. Isn't that fancy? I think in a real house, this would be some sort of entertainment room. And
These
there is a
colours are all
TV and
wrong.
couches.
I'll never hit the right tone. Why did I let Rangan talk me into this?
So,
Da Vinci meets Jackson Pollock. How
yeah,
is
it
that
might be
even
some sort of
possible?
entertainment area. Up the stairs, we have Darwood's office desk, I guess. A very big wide desk. Although, I mean, there's not any... I'm not sure if there's any real office work going on here. Back here we have a fancy bathroom, a shower, no bath, a big ass toilet. Isn't that toilet too big? It seems like it's a huge toilet. Does he have a big butt? What's going on? Alright, fancy bathroom where you can see outside from the bathroom. Weird. And then continuing upstairs, we have more unfinished spaces, right? So this is all unfinished. Not too sure what's gonna happen here. There's no real clues as to what these spaces are. I mean, if this is gonna be a house, I suppose this would be where the bedrooms are, right? On this level. Because we have maybe kitchen, I don't know, and then like dining and lounge, and then office, and then up there would be bedroom, maybe? And then we come up here again. More floors. And then more spaces. And it's just like big concrete space with nothing in it. And apparently there's gonna be more construction up there, although that's a little weird. Look at that. That looks like a column. And that looks like a column. but there's no column down here. That seems wrong, right? Unless they plan to put a column in. No, they wouldn't do that. That doesn't make any sense. If, like, okay, so those look like the main columns of the building. But if they were the main columns of the building, they would need to go all the way to the ground. And you would put the columns in before you put the floors on top. And all that. So that's a bit strange. I don't think that's correct. Anyway, the idea is that the building is supposed to continue going up. In here, like, we do have columns. I'm not sure that's enough columns, though. I think that the house just generally doesn't have enough columns for it to make sense. Also, there's a big hole there. Why would there be a big hole there? Well, that's the hole for the staircase, right? And you see it goes up. And then we have... like, what's this hole for? I don't know what that's... Don't really know what any of this is about. Structurally dubious. Structurally seems like there's not enough columns. But, alright, and this is, the Rangan Tower. So it's very unusual. In fact, I don't think it's possible for, like, the building to be unfinished and then to have, like, 2 floors that are finished and then only occupy those 2 floors. Because here's the thing, construction work is very noisy. There's a lot of noise, a lot of dust, a lot of vibrations actually, when you're like big machinery moving around and you're constructing things. And so you wouldn't put the glass in when you're still doing heavy construction, because if anything goes wrong, you smash the glass, you have to replace all the glass. So usually you do all the heavy construction work, put in the columns, walls, floors, column, walls, floors, and you're just gonna stack them all the way up to the top. And then when the heavy construction work is done, then you start finishing. Actually no, as you're doing the heavy construction work going up, on the floors you've done, you put in electricity and plumbing. So you put in the pipes, you put in the wires, and you follow that up. And then when the heavy construction work is complete, you move the big machinery away, and then you do the finishing work, which is like the walls, the windows, the glass, the paint, and all that. And so you do things in stages, but you don't do the final finishing stuff while you still have big machinery moving heavy things around, because you will drop things sometimes, or you can, and you just smash all the glass, and you don't want to do that, right? Like, and all this, like, you kind of like cover all the stuff in dust, and you're painting things, and you're gonna spill the paint on your shiny wooden floors. So when you're building your building, you do things in sequence, so you don't ruin the final finish with the heavy construction, right? So you wouldn't do this in a real building unless you're like really uncoordinated. Unless you just don't know what the hell you're doing. I guess if you don't know what the hell you're doing, you would do this. You would just like, oh, I want to live in my fancy tower right now! And then you would just, you know, finish the part that you want to live in, and you just live in it, even though nothing else is finished.
That's good.
So I think the idea is that, like, Dawood just doesn't know what he's doing. Like, he's uncoordinated. And yeah, and like his character is supposed to be, as I said, all style, no substance, right? And so like the building looks cool from a distance, but you walk up to it, you realize nothing's finished. So he's like all talk and no delivery. Alright, let's go up the back. And there's more construction outside out here. Not really sure what's going on out here. Right, there's a big crane, alright, we understand that. Moving heavy stuff around. But then there's this, there's like columns? Like, what's that gonna be? Are they gonna build another building? Or is this just like, I don't know, decorative columns? Why are there columns? Alright, what are these columns for? They're not... Are they even arranged in a grid? No. There's no grid? Oh, they're not even in a grid. Look, there's a column there. And there's a column there. And then there's a column there. And they're not even in the grid. So I don't know what's going on here. And I don't know what these things are gonna be. Are these foundations for something big? Or... like, what are they casting here? I don't know what's going on. There's like general construction site things, but I honestly don't know what's going on. I don't think this is a real construction site. Because you know, when you look at a real construction site, you can actually tell what's going on. If you know what you're looking at. This, I can't tell what's going on, so I don't think this is a real construction site. Not to say that, oh, I'm so good at architecture, I know what a real... No, really, like, I can't see what's happening here. Like, what, like, none of the columns line up. Yeah, no, this is just nothing, it's not a construction site, it's not real. Over here we have a barge, makes sense. You bring in the heavy materials by barge. Because you can't get a truck through the slums, right? Okay, and that is Mumbai in Hitman, the world of Assassination. Alright, so some final thoughts. The Mumbai in the game, like the real Mumbai, we have crowded slums right next to shiny new buildings. And it seems kind of crazy if you're not used to it, and two, if you don't understand why it's happening. Right? Like somehow there's new construction going on everywhere, and at the same time there's slums, and you might think, wow, this seems like a really unfair society. There's people living in rich luxury towers, and then there's people living basically homeless. And yeah, I guess it's unfair, right? I guess there's like the disparity between the lives of some people and others seems a little dramatic. But the thing is, it's not like they're not trying. It's not like the Indians aren't trying to house everyone properly. They are, because there's new housing blocks going up all the time. The issue is, as we said at the start, an infrastructure deficit. When the population of the city is growing faster than the city is able to build new housing and new infrastructure to house those people and supply those people, then you end up with slums. Then you end up with people living in really bad conditions. Just because you can't keep up. Not because you don't want to, because you know, there's a physical limitation on how fast you can build things. And I guess, you know, you might say, oh, there's corruption, there's mismanagement, there's people being stupid. I mean, yeah, to some extent, that can happen, and it doesn't help, of course. But even if, like, the people do everything right, sometimes there are actual physical limitations to how fast you can build. And, like, it can happen in any country, anywhere. You just have to, like, fall behind a little bit, and then suddenly homeless people start appearing. And then things start getting bad. And it happens everywhere, like I said, like it happens even in the United States. The United States has an infrastructure deficit and a housing deficit. So it's not just because they're poor, not just because they're Indian, not just because they're stupid. No, it's just that, you know, pretty much everywhere in the world could use more architecture, or could use more infrastructure. And not to bring up any controversial comparisons, but one of the recent success stories is China. Like, in having the infrastructure catch up to the population, China is one of the few success stories, actually. And the way China did it was the one-child policy. Because remember, if the population grows, you have to, like, keep up with the infrastructure. What China did was one-child policy to limit the population growth. And so with the population no longer growing as fast, the infrastructure could catch up. And that's how China did it. And you might say, oh, that's oppression, that's a violation of human rights. How can you tell people how many children to have? And yeah, okay, I get it. You don't want people telling you how many babies you're allowed to have. But I'll tell you what, if that's what it takes for you to close the infrastructure deficit, if that's what it takes for you to have, like, a toilet in your house, as opposed to having to poop over an open sewer, like you see in the slum in Mumbai, Well, maybe it's just a trade-off you have to make, you know what I mean? Would you rather have to poop in an open sewer and be allowed to have as many children as you want, except they live next to an open sewer? Or would you rather be limited to one child per family, but having like decent houses to live in and not living next to an open sewer? That's the trade-off, and I don't know if there's any good answers, to be honest. Anyway, not to spend too much time on that, but just a point to think about when we think about how to fix infrastructure deficits, because it's so hard to catch up. If you don't control population growth, it's so hard to catch up. Alright, so we still need to eliminate that with Rangan. Let me go ahead and find him real quick. Oh, I found him. Look at
Darwood
that.
Rangan
There he
is
is.
confirmed killed. Mission completed. Time to find an exit.
Nice. Alright, and we're done in Mumbai. Let's get out of here. In the next video, we are going to somewhere in Vermont, USA. The game has a fictional town, a fictional suburb of Whittleton Creek, where we're going to, in Vermont, USA. I'll see you there next time.